Well, welcome everybody. My name is Jack Willard, and we have an exciting guest for you today. Welcome the editor-in-chief of George Magazine. Here is the one, the only, Gene Ho.
Ah, thank you for having me on the show. And by the way, I'm a fan of yours. And also, my mom and dad watch you. So
Your
we
dad
love what you're
too.
doing. Yes. Oh, my
Oh
dad. My
my
dad's a
goodness.
big fan of me. How about that? But no, my mom and dad both watch you. Appreciate it. I watch you as well. So thank you very much for having me as a guest.
Well, terrific. We're going to talk all about the big event coming to Hot Springs, Arkansas, August 10th and 11th, sponsored by George Magazine, mostly in our second segment. But let's get to know a little bit about you if we can, okay?
Absolutely. Anything you want to ask.
Well, were you born in New York City?
Ah, yes, I am born in Brooklyn. So New
Wow.
York boy, born and raised, and then grew up on Long Island. So I stayed there until I was about 18, moved to
Yes.
Myrtle Beach and lived there for about 30 years before my current home now is in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas. So it's beautiful, but going from the big city and all this stuff to kind of chilling now. So it's all good.
I know I know you don't have a South Carolina accent. I picked up on that pretty quick. So did you get to ride the Cyclone roller coaster at Coney Island, or you
No,
didn't?
no. See, when I was growing up, it was in Long Island. So the most we ventured out was basically to like Shea Stadium and watching the
Yes.
Mets play. And we like when you people who live in Long Island, most of the time they don't venture past that into the city. I love the city. Last time I was in New York, really enjoyed being there in Manhattan. But growing up, mostly spent it on the island.
Well, I love you even though you didn't go to Yankee Stadium, you know?
Oh no,
Now,
I'm telling you. Wait, just so you know, we are big Mets fans, and then but we still we I followed everything the Yankees have done. So it's very
cool.
interesting. In New York, you can only choose one. You have to be one or the other.
Isn't that weird? Yeah. I mean, unless they're in the World Series, then I think people have enough, dedication to New York to root for the Mets. Then, if they're a Yankee
Yeah.
fan. So you learned to speak Chinese as your first language?
Yes. So could you just imagine this? So when I was about, I think 3 years old, so we were both raised to speak. Both my sister and I. My sister's 3 years older than me. Both born and raised to speak Chinese. So we spoke Cantonese at first, but then when I was about 3 years old, my dad made the switch, I could say, to basically in the house we'll speak English. And in many ways, I'm glad about that because that I know of is very difficult to sense any kind of Chinese accent. But actually, Cantonese, which is Chinese, was my first language, and then English is my second language. But here's the other thing: I forgot how to speak most of the Cantonese. It'll come back to me, but
Yes.
I just don't get a chance to practice it.
It would seem the penmanship would be as hard as learning the language, especially for someone like me. If you can do Chinese penmanship, you can probably paint a beautiful painting, it would seem.
No, you know what? My dad tried to teach us how to do write in Chinese. It was very difficult because, like, if you write in any letter here in English, an A, there's like 5 different ways that people could write an A or a B or C. But in Chinese, basically, the brush strokes have to go in a certain direction. It was very confusing for me with that. But then again, English is not even though I'm editor in chief, English is not it's always not the most easy thing for me as well. But
That's
I
true.
manage with it. I manage it.
So you're 18 and you moved to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Did you fall in love with it?
Oh my goodness. Beautiful place. It was wonderful. Still is. The only problem is like I spent 30 years there and then loved it greatly. And then basically the last 2 years, my wife and I wanted to get a little bit closer to the middle of the country. As some of you guys know, I was on a tour with Eric Trump. And before that, I was on tour going around the nation and also spending time with Donald Trump. So I've done a lot of traveling. We thought that we would make it easier for ourselves traveling to go somewhere in the middle of the country to as a home base. But
Mhm.
nowadays, I really don't even do any more too much traveling at all, if any.
Well, I see you started out as a businessman. Uh, but eventually, you would become a world-renowned photographer. Where did you get your training for photography?
No, this is a strange thing. I was actually they call it a stringer. So you're a reporter for a newspaper.
Yes.
This is way before the internet. So the newspapers back then were like a big deal. And so I was a writer for a newspaper. But the problem was when I was there writing it, I had to request one of the staff photographers to do the pictures for my stories. I thought maybe, hey, I could get paid twice. I could get paid to write the article and take the picture. So I learned how to do photography basically on my own. And then once I learned that, the photography aspect of it far surpassed anything to do with the writing for the most part. And so during that time, I got a chance to photograph a lot of different people, a lot of celebrities. And then later on in my career, I spent 2 years with as Donald Trump's campaign photographer in 15 and 16.
Yes.
So it was just a very interesting career path. There's just nothing that I ever planned, to be honest.
I want to talk about the Trump years, but the thing that interested me is you started doing wedding photography. And a lot of people right here in Orange County, New York, did that and were very successful, but they didn't hire people and have it being done for them all around the country. How did you accomplish that?
No, there's my whole life has been chance encounters. So, there was several chance encounters. One of them was that I photographed the wedding of one of the Atlanta Falcon cheerleaders. So once I got in with that group, started doing different cheerleaders, and then started doing NFL players and different people in the NASCAR world and different all over. But basically, I had at one time 25 photographers working for me, and each weekend, what we would do is I would send out my photographers all over the world. We had photographers out in Paris, in Cancun, all over the world and all over the country. So every single week we would just go out there and do it. And I guess the most remarkable part about that is we did this for the most part based in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So it was a small city comparatively. But, we were, as a wedding photographer, we were doing weddings all over the country. It was very big back then at the time.
I see. And eventually you find yourself in Hot Springs, Arkansas. How did you make that transition?
I'll tell you, this is probably the more interesting stories about it because I spent 2 years with Donald Trump. And then after that, because I wrote a book about Trump, I started going on tour all over the country, ended up on one of the bigger tours in all, and probably spent about 3 or 4 years traveling. But near the end of that, my wife and I wanted to be a little bit closer to the middle of the country. We narrowed it down to Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Texas. And between the two, we kind of favored Arkansas. I still am friends with Governor Mike Huckabee. And I just said, okay, well, Arkansas looks like a good place. We actually bought our home here in Hot Springs, Arkansas, sight unseen. I never been to this city before, never even seen my house. We bought it over the internet, sight unseen. But now we came here, we loved it. And then who knew, and some of you guys know that connection with me. I didn't know who Bob Joyce was. And then someone from the magazine, a couple of people said, hey, this guy, Bob Joyce, is just like down the road from you. So yes. You want to check him out. And so that's what happened. My wife and I took a Sunday afternoon, and I'll never forget, it was because it was a holiday, January 1st, not this year, the year before that. We went there just to check it out, and now we're regular members of the church. But I think the coincidence of it is, Jack, is that it wasn't like it was planned. We never even seen our home here before this. We had no idea that it would so-called change our lives, so to speak, being so close to Bob Joyce. But here we are. We're in Hot Springs, Arkansas.
And at some point, I think I heard you talk about you had to do your due diligence because you realized that Pastor Bob Joyce would be a good subject for George Magazine, right?
Right. And, everyone that's watching you, like, they know. Like, so rather than just talking code. everyone, a lot of people that were telling me, and I never knew who Bob Joyce was. All right. But
Right.
to show people how honest I am and I'm not playing around, obviously people said to me, hey, this guy sounds exactly like Elvis. Check him out. All right. So let's not even pretend. But I'll say this, when I went there and like, okay, I'm doing my due diligence. I'm
Right.
here. He's right 45 minutes down the road. I'm going to go check him out. And it's curious, right? So
Right.
my wife and I go, we sit there, and I am telling you, we were both in tears after his sermon. The music itself will just blow your mind.
Sure.
But the sermon that he preached had my wife and I in tears. And we said, you know what? Next week, we had our children back home with great grandma. Next week, we said, listen, we're going to take our children there. And we did, because his message far surpasses anything people want to think. But for me to sit here and say, oh, we just heard that he was such a great preacher. Now,
Right.
everyone knows what I'm talking about. Everyone
Yeah.
here knows what I'm talking about. And that is the attraction, quite possibly at first. But
Right.
you go there and then you are blown away with his sermons. It's like, it is life-changing, his sermons.
Yes.
It's something like you've never seen before. And especially when you see him live and he's right in front of you.
Well, as I say to people that are critical for the reasons people might go, this is an opportunity for the Holy Spirit to change hearts. You may go to a church because you want the coffee and donuts, but the pastor brings a message and the Holy Spirit is present and your life changes if you want it to. It only happens to a certain amount of people, to be honest. Others are not ready for transformation or even want it. So there is that, but for the record, I have a successful. Hey. Go ahead.
No. And
go ahead.
To interrupt you here. Okay, I just want to let you know that is a noble thing. A lot of people don't always go to church for at first for the right reason. Sometimes people go to church. Oh, well, there's a pretty girl. I think I'm going to go to church, get the chance to know her. Or some people in the political realm go to a church because there's a lot of votes there. We all know why people go. It's not always pure. And sometimes it is pure, and that's even more noble. But for whatever reason, the bottom line is a person getting a witness to the Lord. And I think that's what's happening, and people's hearts and minds are being changed. Okay, anyway.
Cool.
Hate to interrupt you. Anyway.
No. Well, it was funny. I just want to note you said the E word and I didn't.
I caught you off guard.
I have a successful video said, don't say the E word, which was based on you being admonished by a group administrator. I think there's a scripture, something like this: heaven and earth will pass away, but those Facebook administrators are going to be there.
Now, listen, and a lot of them are doing a lot of those Facebook administrators are doing a great job, and I do appreciate them. And I by the way, I do my best to on some of these boards. I'm on Bob Joyce's official board as well. I cooperate fully with what they're doing, and I understand it. Sometimes people have said different things about George Magazine because we do censor certain things. I hate to use the word censor, but certain things are we just have rules that we're not allowed. We don't allow them to do. So I play by the rules, but I do respect them, and I know them personally. The administrators are very good people, very, very good and Christian people. So they're doing their due diligence as well.
Right. One more question before we get to the break. First, a comment. You do seem to be somewhat of a maverick, like John McCain. He was always labeled a maverick. I guess that can. I'm not surprised that you're having John B. Wells at the conference because he loves the offbeat topics, and I think you do too.
If people have been watching me for a while, I don't exactly play by people's rules. And the thing is, it's always been that way with me. And at times, quite frankly, and definitely not pointing this to anyone here or any organization. People have wanted to stifle things I say or be a mouthpiece to people. The reason why I like what I do at George Magazine, I have pretty much a license to say anything I want, quite frankly. And we have before. And so I will just basically tell people like it is. And quite frankly, that's probably what part of the appeal of why people follow me online, is because I'll just say, I really don't care what people think.
Right, right. All right. Well, there is a big event coming to Hot Springs, Arkansas, August 10th and 11th. Pastor Bob Joyce will be there on the 11th. I've got questions to ask you about that.
Join us in beautiful Hot Springs, Arkansas for the first annual George Magazine Live, August 10th and 11th, with special guests Richie Minervini, John B. Wells, Amanda Grace, Pastor Bob Joyce, Donae Clement, Juanita Broderick, Scott McKay, Andre Popa, and special online appearance by Dave Blade, the CEO of George Magazine, with your musical guest Bella Popa and me. Come on, join us Sunday for a free Sunday service as well with Pastor Bob Joyce. It's George Magazine Live, August 10th and 11th. Find out more at George Magazine Live.
My name is Gene Ho. I was Donald Trump's photographer from the earliest days of the campaign until the very last day. A journey of almost 2 years. Find out what Trump was really like behind the scenes. The stories and pictures will warm your heart and restore your trust in America and your faith in God. Read my new book, Trumpography, available now, and be inspired.
And we are back. Gene Ho, where are you? I knew
here.
I didn't lose you.
This is wonderful. I really appreciate this. It was a really great interview.
We have to make note of how grateful we are to God that President Trump survived the assassination attempt. I think he's a much more mature, knowledgeable man about government and what have you as he was in 2015. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, listen, first of all, with that, I think I saw it best online. You know, the bullet actually grazed him in the ear, as we know. You just think if he was turned one way or the other, even a couple of millimeters, it would have been very, very difficult. And I'm just glad that he's okay. But, you know, it was very interesting because I was there with Donald Trump from the very beginning. So the first rally that I did with him, there might have been maybe like 75 people in a room.
Yes.
With him. And so I watched it grow to where it is today. It's going to be interesting what happens within the next, 120 days. But we're off to see it. And we're you know, I've been on promoting a lot of the stuff he's been talking about. But we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see that people vote and the voice of the people will be heard. We'll see.
Yes, I think there's a good effort to this time not to have all the shenanigans going on. The Republicans are going to be watching that and making sure people vote early because you have to play that game now. And I'm going to be praying a lot because this November 5th is obviously the most important election of my lifetime. I would assume you would agree.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting because Lara Trump, as you know, has taken over the GOP along with Michael Whatley, who I know very well because I worked with him in the first campaign in 2015 and 16. I know Lara Trump very well too. And by the way, the last time I was in New York, it was an invitation by Lara Trump to Trump Towers in New York. But one of the things that she is recommending to people is to vote early. And for the longest time, much of MAGA Nation had an affinity against voting early and voting by mail. But now that has changed, according to Lara Trump. So we'll see what happens this time around. And, you know, one of the things that we want as America is America to be not divided. We want America to be united. And united doesn't mean that 100% of the people vote for Donald Trump. It just means that people have to get together and understand there's a lot of differences of opinions. And sometimes it means that we agree to disagree. And if we could get like that in America, maybe as a nation, we can move on.
Well, I have been hearing that there's a big shindig coming to Hot Springs, Arkansas, August 10th and 11th. How did the concept for that begin?
Well, one of the ways that it began is because last year around this time, Pastor Bob Joyce had his annual baptism day, and he had it in Benton, where his church was at. They had a hard time locating where to baptize people. Someone was very nice. There was a creek, and then Pastor Bob went out to the creek and he baptized people. And there was a lot of people there at the church. It's a very, very small church. And so I said, okay, well, what could we possibly do as a parishioner of the church to make sure that next year, this was a year ago, that we would have a bigger place. So came up with this idea of renting a very beautiful theater. We have someone that donated a baptismal pool. So what we did is we have an event on Saturday with many different speakers. And then on Sunday, we have Pastor Bob doing his normal Sunday service with his music and his preaching, his sermon there. And then he'll be doing baptisms afterwards. But it's interesting because the Sunday event is open to the public. So the general public can go there and enjoy that right there at Hot Springs.
Do you have any idea how many seats the Horner Hall Theater holds?
No, I don't, but I think it's going to be maxed out. I'm almost sure it's going to be maxed out. Just on the separate note, on the ticket sales, we almost sold out all the VIP tickets. Again, you don't need a ticket to go to the Sunday baptism or the Sunday church service, but we've already not only almost sold out the VIP tickets. The host hotel next to it is called the Hotel Hot Springs. That is where the speakers dinner is going to be at, the after party's at. That hotel is already sold out. And we're not talking the holds on the rooms. We're talking the whole hotel was sold out. And the hotel said they never see anything like this. I mean, it was sold out almost a month and a half before the actual event. So there's still rooms, I think, at the opposite hotel there, which is the Embassy Suites, but it's going to be it's a well talked about event, and a lot of people are going to be there.
Well, in terms of your Saturday lineup, I think you might be in the Guinness Book of World Records after this for the most diverse event.
Yeah,
you have a wild. Now you've added the Feeling Groovy Oldies band too.
Yes. Yeah, you
So
know what, Jack? What we wanted to do is, and I get it, because a lot of people know me from my work with Donald Trump, and I spent almost 4 years, in speaking at a lot of these MAGA type rallies and stuff like that. And it's not that, I mean, I fully support Donald Trump, but we wanted something where it was a little bit more diverse. There are some patriot speakers, as you could say there. My friend's a professional stand-up comedian that opened for many people like Ray Romano, Kevin James. He actually was the one that gave Eddie Murphy his first start on stage in Long Island. He owned my friend Richie Minervini owned the comedy club that all these East Coast comedians got their start at.
Right.
So he's going to be in town. He's going to do a stand-up routine. He's a very funny man. Obviously, he's in a lot of movies. So we just want a very fun and diverse time. But it's not the typical, what people would say, the typical, patriotic MAGA rally. There's a lot of different people, but it reflects the magazine very well. Our magazine is very diverse in the people that we interview and feature.
Right. What does Jeff Kennard do? I know I've heard the name.
Jeff Kennard is he's a preacher, but it's even more than that. He's very inspirational, a very inspirational speaker. So he will be there. He's actually going to open the show. He's a very, I guess, a positive, feeling good kind of talk there. We want people to be uplifted, not only spiritually, but emotionally when they go here. We want people to have a good time. And, this is what I believe will be setting the stage for the future. When I say the future is moving on with this, not to say MAGA has disappeared, not at all, but sooner or later people are going to have more diverse ways of looking at life. And this is the setting of the stage with it. Very spiritual, very uplifting, and that's what we're trying to do.
Sure. I think young progressives are kind of just waiting for the baby boomers to die off, to be honest with you. And so that's why I'm glad to see, J.D. Vance, who's going to turn 40 in August. I'm glad to see him as possibly helpful for the next generation of people that have biblical family values,
Yeah, no, it's very difficult for me because we're talking about the future of Americans. And I think, and with all these things going on, I think what we're seeing in America is a turn from secularism and bringing in a reawakening, not necessarily of truth or political truth, but a reawakening to the body of Christ. I believe that what our Father is doing nowadays is using all of this and all this questioning to bring people into Christ. And I think and I believe that Pastor Bob Joyce and people like Amanda Grace are in the forefront of this to bring people to a realization, like me, quite frankly, hey, there's more to life than all of this. And ultimately speaking, what we need to do, not only as Americans, but as Christians, is draw closer to the living Christ.
Yes. How did you discover Amanda Grace?
I was on the same tour with her. So we toured for over 2 years together, along with Eric Trump, and we traveled all over the country, and we just became friends along the way. And since then, we became even deeper friends. She's a wonderful person. And so she is one of the speakers that's going to be on Saturday. And so we're looking forward to a lot of this stuff at the George Live event.
And John B. Wells, me being an old radio guy, I unfortunately didn't get to hear him when he did Coast to Coast AM. I used to listen to those shows all the time when I worked overnights. But he's a great talent. And what do you think he'll be talking about when he comes on Saturday?
You know what? I don't even know. I'm going to leave it up to him. But the thing is, I'm a big fan of his because when I was a wedding photographer, we're talking the overnight. So you can imagine like Saturday, Sunday, driving home long after a wedding. We traveled all over the country, but mostly in a car. But I'm headed home. So on the radio, a terrestrial radio, you listen to Coast to Coast AM. Exactly.
Me too. Oh, the Popas are interesting. She is beautiful and was and probably still is an actress, and she sings as well. I don't know too much about her husband. Andre, is it?
Yes, actually, Andre is the dad, and Bella is his daughter.
Oh.
And by the way, if you ever saw Andre's wife, she also looks like his daughter. She's very, very young and beautiful. But yeah. Andre, so you guys know, used to be a very well-known LA home builder. He built homes for some of the LA Lakers, and so he was a very famous home builder. Since then, he retired from that and has become basically a motivational speaker, and he's a life coach. I would say is like that as well. So he does a great job with that, and so we're looking forward to that as well. And like I said, like you said, it's a very, very diverse group, and people are going to have a great time.
What do you think the hour, since you have so many people? When does it start, and when would it possibly end on Saturday?
Just so everyone knows, we have the full schedule, not the speaker schedule, but we have the full schedule of events online at georgemagazinelive.com. But it's going to be a full day on Saturday. But with all these speakers there's also plenty of time. We're going to have a lunch time there where some of the speakers will go out there. You could meet them personally, get your picture taken with them, and so forth. So I'm really, really excited about that, the whole event.
Yeah, my sources tell me Scott was at Household of Faith yesterday. So,
your sources, see, look at your sources. You got sources.
Yeah, my sources are people that more and more of my viewers are coming to Household of Faith, and they always tell me it's the most wonderful experience.
It is, and I could tell you there are more people that watch you than. Well, I hate to say then admit it. I don't want to say it like that, but there's a lot that go there that is interesting. It's like, oh yeah, like I was like, of course I watch them. I think what you're doing is great, and I think it's very fair what you're doing. I really do think it's very fair, and so whatever you're doing, and ultimately at the end of the day, what our message is, I'm sure yours is faith and trust in the Lord, and I think that's great what you're doing. And but you are right. The Scott McKay, the Patriot Street Fighter, was at church this past Sunday. He gets there quite for living in Texas, and a lot, as you know, a lot of the people that are regulars there travel in. I mean, some of the people there are traveling regularly, 3-4 hours even, to go to the church. I feel blessed because for me it's like a 45-minute drive. So
I think my viewers would want to know, how long do you think it will take for the beautiful horse, I might say, beautiful horse stable to become the temporary church while you build the new sanctuary? How long will it take?
This much I could tell you, and this is not exactly inside information, but I just heard it. Hate to say straight from it, but like it's going to take a while because right now, as you know, in Arkansas is very, very hot.
Yeah.
And Bob will have plenty of volunteers, but it's just too hot to do any of the work right now on it.
Sure.
So it's not going to be until it gets cooler.
Right.
Obviously, people wanted it now. We thought maybe by the time it was December, it would be all done. But there's no chance of that. The work will probably begin once it starts getting cooler. And there is a lot of work to be done, but it's a very beautiful location. So that's not going to be ready until sometime middle to late next year. But at least it's there and there's something to look forward to.
Absolutely. Are there any other things you would like to talk about in terms of, before we close, about the Hot Springs event, the 10th and 11th?
No, just for everyone that's watching, I just want to let you know that me and Jack have been wonderful friends probably for the last couple months. And so I really enjoy watching your show. But for everyone else, please just go to georgemagazine.com and or georgemagazinelive.com if you want to go to our event in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Gene. You're a special person, very intriguing person, and we love you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.